It's playing all those roles. You just need to be yourself, which is the awareness, that which is aware of it.
Right.
We're so quick to identify as that activity, and you get lost in the activity and you get lost in the story. You just simply need to remain as what you are. How do you know about all of this? The mind thoughts, and how do you know of this Kundalini energy that's rising the body and the body's squirming around and the thoughts are very rampant? What's watching those thoughts that are coming and going? What's watching the momentum of the mind pick up at night? What's watching the energy surge? What is experiencing that? Well, it is, but you as what? You as the awareness that is aware of the coming and the going, the appearing, the disappearing, the changing. You, the awareness, you are not coming and going. You are not appearing and disappearing. You are not changing. So when I say be yourself, this is what I mean. Be this. Be what you are. Be what you already are. You don't need to become. And this is then able to watch without any involvement.
Okay.
Just and then you let all that happen. You could say in you, in that seeing, in that awareness.
So all the activity, that's just not me.
For this part of the journey, we're just going to put it to the side and just say it's not you right now, because there's so much identification with it. It's not what you essentially are. What you essentially are is what I'm pointing to. But there's just too much identification with that activity. And that's the activity that wants to sustain itself. That activity is what comes to a rest. But when that activity comes to a rest, that activity feels like it's death. But when there's identification with that activity, then it feels like I'm dying.
Yeah, it does.
When you are able to remain as yourself more and more, you are able to see clearly that this activity is just slowing down, unwinding, coming to a rest. And when it comes to a rest, and you still are, then you realize, well, this activity died, but I did not die. Therefore, from that perspective, you see that death is an illusion. That you can't die. The only thing that dies is who you think you are. But this is where you can't continue trying to understand. You can't continue. That's just the activity. It's just, you just have to, I'm saying, well, it's you that's seeing this activity. This activity is, it's in a container. It's within you.
Yeah, I can.
It's an appearance. It's appearing to the activity is the known. These thoughts are known. The feelings are known. The sensations are known. The perceptions are known. Now I'm saying, what is the knowing? What is it that's knowing the known? You are the knowing of thoughts, the knowing of sensations, the knowing of perceptions. Now, this knowing is ever present, just like the knowing of this conversation here. There's a knowing. The conversation right here is known. Now, it's known because there's a knowing that is present. Now, this conversation is known, but prior to this conversation, maybe dinner was known. Maybe the work was known. The job was known. Driving the car was known. So everything that's known is objective. They're objects that are appearing to you. It's an activity that is ever changing. But what is the knowing? What is it that is knowing? It's this. See, it doesn't come and announce itself like a thought. There's just simply knowing of knowing right here, right now. It's the knowing that's knowing itself. So this knowing is you, the subject. There's infinite objects, but there's only one subject. All these objects are known, but known by what? Known by the knowing. The mind is known, right? The thoughts are known, the feelings are known, sensations are known, perceptions are known, right? The story of who you think you are is known. All of that is known. Known by what? The knowing. This knowing is ever present. It's not coming and going. It's not changing. This knowing is the subject. And clearly, it is you that is knowing. Because you are the knowing. So this knowing cannot be known objectively like anything else, like everything else. It can't be known objectively. It can't be known like an object because it's the subject. And this knowing is ever present, even in the midst of exhaustion or tiredness or panic or terror, fear, anxiety, worry. All of those are known. Those feelings, those emotions are changing. The feeling of exhaustion changes then into fear. So the known was changed. But what about the knowing? Well, the knowing remains the same. Now see how the knowing is free from the known. There's panic, there's terror, there's exhaustion. There's the knowing of it. The knowing of panic, the knowing of terror, the knowing of exhaustion. And without the knowing, there would be no panic or terror or exhaustion. Without the knowing, there would be no known. So whatever is known, such as exhaustion or panic or terror, there's just an emphasis on the known. So instead of emphasizing that which is known, just simply shift that focus to the knowing of it. Just like this conversation. This conversation is known, but don't emphasize the words. Don't emphasize the content. Just relax the focus. And just realize how there's the knowing of the conversation. That the conversation is actually taking place in the knowing. These words are changing right now. But the knowing of the changing words, well, the knowing is not changing. It's the same knowing. These words that I'm saying are coming and going. They are appearing and disappearing. Check to see if the knowing is appearing and disappearing. Check to see if the knowing is coming and going. These words that I'm saying, they're temporary, they're fleeting. As soon as I say a word, it disappears. Then there's a new word. These are temporary. Now, the knowing is not temporary. What you call your entire life, there's been the knowing of it. Every experience is known. Bunch of experiences. 5th birthday, 10th birthday, yesterday's dinner, and here you are today, experiencing this conversation. But wasn't there the knowing of the 5th birthday? There's the knowing of the 10th birthday. There's the knowing of yesterday's dinner. And there's the knowing of this conversation. See how it's the same knowing. That this knowing is unchanged. This knowing hasn't come and gone. It's remained constant. There's just a constant knowing. Even after what may appear as a 5-minute conversation, there's still the knowing of it. And see how you can't turn off this knowing. See how it just is. It is ever present. Now, all that's happened is that there's just a identification with the known, the body, mind. The body, mind is known. And I'm just simply pointing and saying, yeah, but what about the knowing of this known? The body, mind is the known. This is what you identify as. But what about the knowing? Isn't it you that is knowing the body, mind? This body, mind is changing. It's appearing and disappearing. It's coming, it's going. But this knowing is ever present. It's not coming and going. It's not appearing and disappearing. How can you be just the body mind? How can you be something that is ever changing? What is it that's knowing that it is ever changing? Well, that must be you. That's your reference that everything is changing because you are not changing. You know that the thoughts are coming and going because you are not coming and going. You know that the feelings are appearing and disappearing because you are not appearing and disappearing. You know that things are temporary because you are not temporary. Just see by knowing, this is knowing yourself. You are the knowing. Right now, you are experiencing yourself. Notice how this you, the knowing, doesn't have a story, doesn't have a past or a future. There's no time. This knowing's not running around. It's not tired. It's not exhausted. It's always on and it's not exhausted. Notice how just simply knowing, you can just rest as this knowing, not trying to know something, just simply knowing, knowing that you are knowing, aware that you are aware, experiencing that you are experiencing. Three different ways of saying the same thing. That you're just resting as this pure experiencing, this pure awareness, this pure knowing. You don't feel like a somebody. You're not trying to become anything. There's no story, there's no problems, there's nowhere to get, nothing to attain, nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just realize that you are already this. See how there's nothing missing from this moment without referencing a past. There's absolutely nothing missing. Without referencing a past or a future, there's no problems. Without referencing a past or a future, there's nobody. It's just this pure knowing, this emptiness. It's not like it knows a bunch of things. Because the knowing is not a thing. Knowing the knowing is simply knowing no thing. You are this no thingness that is knowing. Just simply resting as no thing. This is what you are in your essence. This is the essence of you. The essence is something that cannot be removed. Anything that is non-essential can be removed. Now look at all the things that were non-essential: past, future, name, label, story, personality, all of these different things, effort, all of these were just simply removed, just put aside, just dropped. All of the non-essential things were just simply put aside to reveal the essence, that which is essential. This nothingness, this emptiness, this formless knowing, this is what cannot be removed. Now that everything is put aside, you just reveal what has always been here. Of course, it's essential. Everything that we put aside were the known. We just let go of the known. And realize that you are free from everything that is non-essential. That what you actually are doesn't depend on anything. It doesn't depend on time. It doesn't depend on space. It doesn't depend on a past. It doesn't depend on a future. It doesn't depend on a mind. It doesn't depend on a body. It doesn't depend on a world. This experiencing of this knowing, experiencing of this pure experiencing. Check to see if there's any mind. Check to see if there's any body. Check to see if there's any world. It's not any of those things. Those are things. This knowing is not a thing. Things are forms. That which is knowing is formless. Forms have limits. That which is formless is limitless. Check for yourself to see if you can find any limits. No limits. See how this formless knowing is not personal. There's no name. There's no story. There's nothing personal about it. It's impersonal. No name, no gender, no height, no weight, no religion, no nationality. No personal preferences. And see how it's just effortless to just be this, to be yourself. See how you're not making any effort to do anything. That's what you're used to, is all the doing, all the activity. So it's a sort of undressing that we just did. Just undressed all the activity, all the effort, all the doing. Just took it all off. And now you realize that this knowing is naked. It's this naked knowing. Just seemed to be covered up by the activity. But it has always been here. You can't get rid of it. You can't lose it.
You keep your attention there.
Because it's what you are. Even if the attention wanders, notice how there's a knowing that the attention wandered. It is you that's watching the attention wander. It is you that's watching the attention get lost. How would you know that the attention wandered? How the attention can't stay here if it wasn't for the fact that you are knowing? You are present in the midst of any experience. Cooking dinner, well, there's a knowing of cooking dinner. Listening to someone in a conversation, there's a knowing of the listening. There's a knowing of the conversation. Driving the car, there's a knowing of driving the car. There's just a simple remembrance or shift of the attention from the known to the knowing. And it doesn't mean that you have to forget totally about the known. It's to simply stop ignoring the knowing, which always kind of feels like it's in the background, this background knowing. The known is in the foreground. Cooking the dinner, well, that appears to be in the foreground. Yeah, but there's the knowing in the background. By just simply remembering that knowing, allowing the attention to soften, allowing the focus to soften, allowing the attention to relax, allowing the focus to relax off of the driving or the cooking or the conversation. Then there's just simply the knowing that appears to be in the background. And it feels like it moves from the background more into the foreground. But with these meditations, I help you find this knowing by just allowing all that activity to come to a rest so that there's just the knowing. So you can be yourself in this meditation. That's easy. But can you be yourself in the midst of what we call daily life? Or do you go back to forgetting yourself? You go back to being hypnotized by the objects, forgetting that you are the subject that is knowing all of these objects. You go back to being hypnotized, believing yourself to be the object. So you could say remembering yourself or realizing yourself in these meditations become faster and faster, easier and easier. And then you start experiencing this, you, like you are now, in the midst of driving and cooking and cleaning and all the daily activities. So as you are right now, feeling very meditative, your whole life then has this quality to it, this meditative quality. So don't let the objects or the known or the content overpower this knowing. It's really the other way around. This knowing should overpower the objects, the content, the known. So as you slowly open your eyes, continue experiencing the knowing. As you see the room, that's the known. That's the objective experience. That's the object. And it is I, the knowing, the pure experiencing, that is the subject. I'm hearing the same voice, and my eyes are open. And there's a knowing that the eyes are open now. There was a knowing that the eyes closed for the meditation. There's the same knowing that's knowing that the eyes are open after the meditation. There's the knowing that the world disappeared when the eyes were closed. And now there's the knowing that, oh, there's a world here. The eyes are open. Notice how the knowing didn't change. It's the same knowing. Notice how you still have that same meditative quality, that same meditative experience. So you're still resting as yourself. Now, everything that you put down, the past, the future, the story, the problems, the names, see it as something that you put down on the floor. And see how right now you have your eyes open, sitting, seeing a room. But you're not in a hurry to go pick up all those things that you put down. Now you're free to put them down, you're free to pick them up. Now, maybe you didn't know that you could be this long without a story. Maybe you didn't know you can exist this long without past or future. But yet, here you are, existing without past, future, story, name, or effort. So let's see who wants to say something, share something. Sean, can't really tell if you have your eyes open or not.
Yeah, they're open.
Okay. Anything to share? Anything to...
Yeah. That felt like the deepest meditation I've had.